Hello, and welcome to Leadership as a Philosophy, Not a Checklist. This is an analysis of Field Manual 22-100 from 1999. And just like I said with everything else, if you are watching this and this is the first video that you're clicking on, you got to watch all the backstory. So you got to watch the whole thing because we're building and talking about reductions and differences and changes. It's going to seem like you're getting in the middle of a story, and the reason is the story started with the 1948 version. Couple of things to talk about with this. As you noticed in some of the other discussions, the very first document was 6 pages long, then we went up to 67, 70, hovered around 100 and something pages. Well, this sucker is 377 pages long. So why is that, right? And I'm going to give you a stab at why I think it is. And the reason is because we're trying to make, or the Army at this time. I was in the Army at this time, and I don't remember this edition being published. I was actually in a leadership position at this time, and I don't remember hearing about this at all. But what are we trying to do? Well, they're trying to make a book that covers all the possibilities and contingencies of leadership, which is a disaster because you can't do it, right? Einstein said, and I need to find the quote. I haven't found the exact quote, but Einstein said things should be as simple as possible, but no simpler, right? And so that means that you need to try to condense things down so that they're as simple as you can, possibly make them, and then take that small number of principles and apply it to the largest number of contingencies or possibilities. And that's why if you go back and watch the original series, we talk about the 4 essential characteristics of a leader: humility, integrity, empathy, vigilance, with the talent and wisdom is going to get you a person who can take those things and apply it to the chaos that is leadership. So it's not a thing, it's not a word, it's not a thing. Now, what's going to happen here is I finally was able, these started instead of being a scanned book, these are actual PDFs. So I'm going to sort of skip around, but I can skip now because I have notes, and I click on the text and it takes me right to the thing. It's so exciting. All right. So this one, again, just like all the others, is a mess. There's a bunch of great quotes in here, and this is another observation. There's a bunch of great quotes in here and a bunch of great lines from leaders, and they're all from basically World War II and past, not anything recent. Well, what does that show you? Right? We don't have any great iconic military leaders that we can quote. Make your own conclusions. But there's a bunch of the quotes that they put in here that are great, and so we're going to talk about those. And then I'm going to obviously have my other stuff. As you can tell, I did not get this from the Center for Army Lessons Learned, which is where you think all of the leadership manuals would be. But again, in case you have tuned out at this point, these same principles, you take out soldier and take out unit, take out commander, and put leader and employee. It works in the civilian world. It's the exact same. There's no difference. There's no difference, right? So here's a great quote, right? So from General MacArthur: your mission is to win wars. You are the ones who are trained to fight. Yours is the profession of arms, the will to win, the sure knowledge that in war there is no substitute for victory, that if you lose, the nation will be destroyed. Okay. So this is where I find some humor, right? So make no mistake about it, General MacArthur is speaking to you as you sit, well, it's General of the Army. MacArthur is speaking to you as you sit in your classroom, as you read in the day room or the motor pool or at the kitchen table. You are the Army's leaders, and on your shoulders rests the mission to win our wars. The desire to accomplish that mission despite all adversity is called the Warrior Ethos. We'll talk about that. And makes the profession of arms different from all our other professions. That ethos applies to all soldiers, not just those whose job it is to find, fight, and defeat the enemy. You'll read more about that in chapter 2. If that were not enough, there is a second reason you must strive to be the very best leader you can be. Your people deserve nothing less. When you took your oath, you agreed to be a leader. You entered into a pact with your subordinates and your nation. America entrusted you with its most precious resource, its young people. Now, first of all, a little circular logic there, but nowhere in the oath of enlistment or the oath of an officer does it say, I agree to become a leader. What I think is interesting is there should be one. Maybe you should go through a bunch of wisdom training and a bunch of writing and a bunch of scenarios, and then when you graduate and you're going to go be in charge, you take an oath saying, I swear to take care of my people more important than me, and I swear to give them the best leadership. Maybe there should be an oath for leadership. But just saying that just because somebody took the oath of enlistment and the oath to be commissioned their leader is a disaster. In this document, they don't even talk about what makes a leader anymore. Well, they do. Well, I'll show that. But kind of a problem. And then this warrior ethos thing. So who has the warrior ethos? Who has that mentality that everybody fights? Well, the Marine Corps. And I did not see that when I was in the Army. There was, oh, that's the infantry's job. Oh, that's the tank, that's the armor corps' job. So if you want to make everybody's focus on the people doing the fighting, then you have to actually live that. It's the same idea. Go all the way back to Up the Organization, where I just forgot his name, where the author says, hey, once a month, all of the management had to go work a shift at a check-in counter with the car. Are you doing the check-in stuff, or they all had to go through the training course for the employees? That's the warrior ethos, right? That's the way that you impart. Everybody's focus is on the people that are actually doing the fighting, the pointy end of the spear. And it should be the same way in any organization. If you think a great examples, I need to find these examples. Like I said, I'm doing research, but I need to find out some stuff that I've read about Elon or heard about Elon Musk. So this guy, billionaire, all this sort of stuff, he hears there's a problem. He goes all the way down to the source to find out all the details on the problem and then solves the problem. He doesn't get a briefing from 18 different subordinates that filters out all the essential stuff and gives it to him, right? And so if you're going to have the quote-unquote warrior ethos, it has to be everybody's focused on the soldier, right? Or the frontline soldier, whatever you want to call it. Now, this thing about the army the soldiers deserve nothing less, this is true. But you don't give people the best leaders by just handing them this book. Like I said, when I was in, the leadership stuff that I learned was all from my own study. I didn't have a mentor that sat down with me and taught me leadership. I didn't have somebody show me the way or give me an example. Anyway, too much on that one. So this is great. This is actually a good summation of what a leader should actually be, not a manager, right? So a leader must have a certain level of knowledge to be competent. That knowledge is spread across 4 skill domains: interpersonal, conceptual, technical, and tactical. Okay. The ability to make the right decisions concerning employment of resources. Tactical skills include the mastery art of tactics, yada, yada, yada. So you have to develop those skills. The problem is, what if you don't have them? What if you're not an interpersonal person? What if you don't have any sort of conceptual ability, right? There are people whose personality feeds into that. So let's find those personality traits and make those, and then train those people or develop them. Make sure they've got the ability, right? Saw an interview the other day with a guy, this huge brain, super famous, super smart, super all this sort of stuff. Should absolutely be somebody who's making policy at the national level. And he said he couldn't be less interested in being a politician. It wasn't in his DNA. Knew that he was going to hate it. So we need to find people that have these abilities, and these are personality traits, except for tactical knowledge that you can train. Find those things and do it. Anyway, and then, like I said, in each one of these pages is be, no, do. It's just a bunch of reiteration of the same stuff. It's a bunch of, you could have taken out 50% of the words in this document and it would have said the exact same thing. All right, Army leadership levels. So this is another falsehood. Leadership, we've talked about it in other videos. Leadership, 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 leadership. So if you're a leader and you got 4 people working for you, and then you go to a next higher level and you've got 5 or 6 people that directly report to you, well, you still need to go check on these people down here, and you need to make sure you're keeping an eye on the person above you, and you're still in charge of the environment. So it's still the same. You might have a greater sphere of influence, but that means you need to check more. And then I just love this. It's like somebody was having a stream of consciousness when I wrote this, so I'll read it out loud. Sometimes the rank or grade of the leader holding the position does not indicate their leadership level. That's why figure 1.2 does not show rank. A sergeant first class serving as a platoon sergeant works at the direct leadership level. If the same sergeant holds a headquarters job dealing with issues of policy affecting a brigade-sized organization, he works at the organizational level. However, if the NCO's primary duty is running a staff section that supports the leaders who run the organization, the sergeant is a direct leader. In fact, most leadership positions are direct leadership positions, and every leader at every level acts as a direct leader when dealing with immediate subordinates. So why'd you bring it up, right? If you have people reporting to you, you're a leader. So let's find people that have leadership ability and put them in that place. Not, hey, I just showed up and now I have people answering to me, so I must be a leader. You could be terrible at it, right? All right, this leader of leaders. I read this again. I don't know why I highlighted it, except for trusted them, trained them, let them do their job. But you still have to check. It's not set it and forget it. And then so now we just talked about direct leadership. Look at this one. At any level, anyone responsible for supervising people or accomplishing a mission that involves other people is a leader. Okay, they're in a leadership position, but are they really a leader? We don't know. Anyone who influences others, motivating them to action or influencing their thinking or decision making is a leader. Hey, that's different, right? It's not a function of only of position, it's a function of role. In addition, everyone in the Army, including every leader, fits somewhere in the chain of command. Everyone in the Army is also a follower or subordinate. There are obviously many leaders in an organization, and it's important to understand that you don't just lead subordinates, you lead other leaders. Even at the lowest level, you are a leader of leaders. It's exhausting, right? So what they're saying is anybody who influences anybody who's in responsibility to do that, and if you're anywhere in an organization, you're a leader. Okay, well, that's false. It's just false. It's abjectly false. So you can see the redundancy and confusion and too much talking and too many words. And all right, so this is something from George Marshall. And this is great. So just take out the combat stuff again in this quote. So when you are commanding or leading people under conditions where physical exhaustion and privations must be ignored, where the lives of people may be sacrificed, or just when the work's hard, then the efficiency of your leadership will depend only to a minor degree on your tactical ability. It will primarily be determined by your character, humility, integrity, empathy, vigilance, your reputation, which you get from integrity and humility. Not much for courage, which will be accepted as a matter of course, but the previous reputation you have established for fairness, high-minded purpose, that quality of unswerving determination to carry through any task assigned to you. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good description of what it means to be a good boss. So if you have good character, if you have the talent, which is basically your reputation because you're able to make good decisions and get out of crazy stuff, I like that. I like that a lot. We're going to skip ahead to... so this one I thought was interesting. So command is a sacred trust. The legal and moral responsibilities of a commander exceed those of any other leader of similar position or authority. Nowhere else does a boss have to answer for how their subordinates live and what they do after work. So I guess this is a question. and that is, if command is a sacred trust and the responsibility exceeds that of any other leader, then why don't we spend every available resource and do everything we can to pick the best people to be commanders at every level? Right? And this contradicts what was said before about anybody anywhere in the organization's a leader. So if we're saying that command is different than leadership, then we got a problem, because we should only put leaders in command positions. This is part of the root of what frustrated me when I was in the Army, is I could see that. I was going, why is this person in charge? Whose butt did they kiss? How did they get that job? There's no way they should be in charge of people, because they're terrible. And why isn't this person over here who's so amazing, why aren't they in charge? Because I'll follow that person to the ends of the earth. This person I won't follow to the bathroom. Right? So I have somebody that is sort of gives me feedback on these, and he said he can tell that this was done by 15 different people that didn't talk, and as long as the punctuation was correct, everything got thrown in there. He hasn't seen this one yet, but so here we go. Leaders of character and competence. Now, what did we talk about at the very beginning of this whole project a year ago? There's a leadership competency. So good character, integrity, humility, empathy, vigilance, and being competent, which I say is the talent, because you don't know what you're going to need to do as a leader. Act to achieve excellence by developing a force that can fight and win the nation's wars and serve the common defense of the United States. Good statement, right? But that's what we should have, is we should be looking for people with good character, not backstabbers, not people that have weaseled their way through and gone checking all the blocks and trying to punch their tickets so that they can get this one job that they want. And then this one talks about leadership styles. So I'm just going to laugh at this because I've said it before and I don't know why this is in here. Because the way this is written, this whole 7 or 8 pages, I think, is that you come into work and you say, here's my leadership style. My leadership style is direct. Okay, so now I'm going to be direct. And then the whole day you're direct. No, this is impossible. Having said that, effective leaders are flexible enough to adjust their leadership style and techniques to people they lead. Good. Some subordinates respond best to coaxing, suggestions, or gentle prodding. Others need, or even want at times, the verbal equivalent of a kick in the pants. Treating people fairly doesn't mean treating people as if they were clones of one another. In fact, if you treat everyone the same way, you're probably being unfair because different people need different things from you. Precise. Exactly. But then it gives you the directing leadership style, the participating leadership style, the delegating leadership style, transformational and transactional leadership style. And I think that's it, right? So, okay, so there's only 5. The way that it works with leadership, right, is you're attuning competence and environmental hierarchies in pursuit of a goal. So you got the environment. You find out what makes this person tick, and then you find out how to get through to them, and then you find out what you're going to need to do to get them. And sometimes there may be a person that doesn't like to get, quote unquote, yelled at, but you've tried everything else that they usually respond to, and you got to call them on it. I had one person that worked for me once. It was hilarious. Walked over, this person had a bad week, and I just walked over and I slid the report across and walked off, and all I heard was a bunch of cursing because it made him so mad because he didn't like to be second at anything, and so he happened to be second, and so I was just poking fun at him because I knew I had been there for the whole week. I knew why it had a bad week. I knew all the conditions. I knew everything that had happened, so I knew what was going on. But why did I do that? Just to let him know that I noticed, and that everybody else that could pull that report was going to notice. And then he had like a great 3 months, but it was still hilarious because I knew exactly what I was doing. I was just little poke. And then I also had people that would come to me and say, before you say anything, here's what I did wrong, blah. So I say, what did you learn? I'm not finished yet. And they would tell me the lesson they learned because they knew the questions I was going to ask. But there may be times you walk into work and you have to use, in a 10-minute time, you may have to change your leadership approach with 4 different people. And you might have to use a different approach with the same person twice. It may be that there's something, hey, okay, that's all right. And then 5 minutes later, you find out that they did something that you've told them to fix 20 times, which is too many. So then you've got to change something then. So picking a style and then saying, here's my style, you don't know. You have to do it to each individual. You've got 50 people working for you. You've got 50 leadership styles. Try that one on for size. Now this is great because this is an absolute fact. And this is why I think that vigilance is such a big deal. And this is why I think that having humility, integrity, empathy, and vigilance helps you make better decisions. And the higher up you are in an organization, the fewer wacky decisions you should make. Because you don't know, you're up here, how's that going to cascade? You're making a decision that affects 4 people or 6 people? Okay, maybe we can do some tweaking and they can be quick. You're in charge of 1,000 people? You better know what you're doing. And you better pay attention. And you should put your policy in place and then go check it for a while to see how it rippled out and see what happened and see this and go, come back, oh my gosh, I did this and that was a bad idea. I have an example that I like to use, which is I thought it would be cool because in another unit, in another organization that I was in, I would do every month, we would buy a birthday cake and say happy birthday to everybody whose birth month it was. So several years later, I'm in another organization and I'm in charge again. And I said, hey, let's do that. Let's print out their name and put the birth month. So here's June. Happy birthday to these people that were born in June. Didn't put the days. We just put happy birthday to these people who were born in June. And people went in and tore that down. Put it up the next month, they tore it down. I didn't do it again. I didn't ask why. I got the point. People didn't want that. Okay, I get it. Wasn't trying to invade privacy or anything. It was just a month, right? So the actions you take as a leader will most likely have unintended as well as intended consequences. Like a chess player trying to anticipate an opponent's moves 3 or 4 times in advance. If I do X, the opponent will do Y. Then what will I do next? Leaders think through what they can expect to happen as a result of a decision. Some decisions set off a chain of events. As far as possible, leaders must anticipate the second and third orders effect of their actions. Even lower-level leaders' actions may have effects well beyond what they expect. But what I love here is it said they will most likely have unintended. Of course, it says as well as. But you will most likely have not the result you wanted. So you have to think. It's just like asking a question or trying to solve the problem. You have to keep going until you get to the root of the problem, because then you're going to have a better chance of solving the problem. For those of you that have been watching this whole series, you know my walnut counter guy thing, right? So you got somebody who's counting walnuts and somebody who's grading walnuts. Person grading the walnuts keeps getting frustrated, can't make their quota. You walk over to them and say, hey, you're supposed to be checking 50 walnuts a minute. I'm just making these numbers up. 50 walnuts a minute and you're doing 20. What's your problem? You're fired. So the next person comes in there and what do? They just, okay, and walnuts are fine. So you might have a quality problem. Or you keep asking questions. Why are you having problems? Well, I keep getting these walnuts that are a mess. There are problems, they're cracks in the shells and all this sort of stuff. So you go over to the quality control person, say, hey, why do you keep passing through these things? Well, I didn't think that was a problem. So look, we got a picture right here. Here's all of the things that are considered defects in a walnut. And you sent through a whole bunch. Well, it's not a big deal. So what do? So you take the person that was doing the quality control and put them in charge of counting because they're clearly good at counting. And you put the person that cares about quality over here. Now what? Now they're both happy. Now they're both doing their thing. And then the environment gets better. So here's all these great things that happen. You fire the person that can't count, the next, or that's not doing quality control, the next person is going to come in and go, just doing quality control. I'm just sending them through. The quality control person sent them in here. I'm just counting them. So then your quality goes down. That's thinking second and third order of effects, right? So as you can tell, we are blah, blah, blah. Oh, did I mess this up? I think I messed this up. I messed it up. I'm sorry. So then what we start going through in this document is a whole bunch of checklists, a bunch of stuff that we've talked about at the other things. There's a few examples, but this goes on for a good chunk of time. Now, what I want to close with is this, and this is where I come up with my thing about we're trying to make things more complicated than they should be. So here's performance indicators. This appendix lists indicators for you to use to assess the leadership of yourself and others based off these leadership dimensions. Use it as an assessment and counseling tool, not as a source of phrases for evaluation reports. Guess what? It's exactly what happened. When you prepare an evaluation, make comments that apply specifically to the individual you're evaluating. Do not limit yourself to the general indicators listed here. So here's character and competence. Here's values, attributes, skills, and actions. Blah, blah, blah. All right. So come down here to values. Now, this one got me in trouble. So I was applying for a job in the Army, and they had just come out with the Army values. And it was leadership. It was LDRSHIP. And I said, this is stupid. I said, they sat around for all this time and couldn't come up with enough letters to spell the whole word leadership? I said, where's energy, where's audacity, and where's empathy? And I didn't get the job because the guy said I was a smart aleck, which it's not wrong. So then here's this checklist, right? And my comment is, oh, look, a checklist. So values, loyalty. Leaders who demonstrate loyalty bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the correct order and to the Constitution, the Army, and the organization. Observe higher headquarters priorities. Work within the system without manipulating it for personal gain. We've talked about loyalty many other times. And the one thing in here, which is telling the truth when it's going to hurt, or making sure that you're loyal to the right values and ethics, that's not in here. So then duty, fulfill obligations, professional legal, carry out mission, meet professional standards, set the example, blah, blah. Respect and honor, live up to the values. So that's loyalty, that's duty. Don't lie, cheat, steal, or tolerate actions by others. That's integrity, right? So we're coming up with a whole bunch of lists trying to make them different, and it's really the same thing, right? So integrity, we've got leaders who demonstrate integrity, do what's right, possess high standards, are honest, show consistently good moral judgment, put being right ahead of being popular. Okay? This is all in this entire document about integrity. Personal courage. So that's the leaders who demonstrate personal courage. So cool. Now we go leader attributes. So we've got this list. And we go to leader attributes. Mental attributes. Self-discipline, initiative, judgment, self-confidence, intelligence, common sense, cultural awareness. Think and act quickly and logically even when there are no clear instructions. That's initiative. Combine complex ideas into general feasible courses of action. Ooh, that's... Anyway, so here's a bunch of lists about moral attributes, physical attributes, present a neat and professional appearance, meet established norms of hygiene, maintain the Army height and weight, render appropriate courtesies, personally energetic, cope with hardship. Okay, that's fine. Emotional attributes are the same as physical. Remain calm, exercise self-control, maintain a positive attitude, where it was personally energetic, where it was positive. Demonstrate mature, responsible behavior. Skills, then we've got a whole bunch of skills. Reason critically, think creatively. This is under conceptual. Anticipate requirements, that's initiative. Improvise within the commander's intent. Initiative. Use appropriate reference materials. Is that a concept or is that just read the book? Pay attention to details. Integrity. Right? Technical skills. Leaders who demonstrate technical skills, expertise, knowledge, blah, 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 blah. Tactical skills. More actions. Influencing. People that influence. Look, this goes on for pages. Well, what's the problem with that? Well, they're trying to make this list of everything that a leader's supposed to do, and anybody can do that? And I'm not trying to be denigrating to people. It takes a special person to be able to do this huge list of stuff. Of course, the other obvious thing is that a bunch of things in this list are duplicative. Duplicative? Duplicate. Are duplications? Duplicitous? No, that's not it. And so, motivating. I like this. Motivating. Justly applied disciplinary measures. That's integrity. Keep subordinates informed. Empathy. Right? Clearly articulate expectations. Empathy again. So I can just go through here and it's like we're trying to make this list of everything that a leader has to do because we're trying to cover every contingency. This is 6 pages of stuff. So I'm going to set this down and say, here's the 6 pages of things I have to do as a leader. Come on. Right? And look, it just goes on. Planning and preparing. Blah, 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 blah. Executing, blah, 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 blah. Improving, blah, 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 blah. Developing. Ooh, no developing. Hey, maybe we can learn something from here. This is actually kind of a bunch of good stuff about developing, which is fine. Building. See what I mean? This is crazy. And then we go into developmental counseling, which really is just a repeat of the developing chapter. Anyway, so a bunch of good ideas in here, but stretched out over 377 pages, so who's going to read it? And at no point is anybody trying to be concise. There's still no clear vision for what we're trying to do. And then you'll see when we get to the next one, because the next one's kind of going to be easier because it's basically they came out with one and then there's nothing but little updates to it. So I'm just going to do one video on everything from 2006 to 2019, which was the last time there was an update. But we saw where things were simple and there's a couple of checklists and some other stuff. And instead of trying to take those ideas, and what else are we missing? We're missing everything that shows indicators of leadership. We're missing everything that shows how to identify leadership in people. All of those things that were actually around, in this case, 30 years before, are gone. It's just a bunch of words now and a bunch of circular reasoning and a bunch of here's a list. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. These have been a lot of fun. Like I said, there's really only one more and then a conclusion to the series. But think about this if you are a civilian and you're reading these and you're going, man, I can't relate to some of that at all. Well, you can't relate to it because it's intentionally too confusing. It should be a lot easier. So that's about it. Like I said, if you've made it through this whole thing, I appreciate your time. If you have questions or comments, leadership.is.a.philosophy@gmail.com. And I look forward to helping or doing the next video.